Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, and north of the equator. I'm Russ, that's intern Andrew on the ones and twos. But we are not by ourselves. We have a special guest.
Absolutely.
Anthony, take it away.
Yes, and we have Bundy's doing pregame radio, right? So we, normally we bring on one of the members of the media to join us for pregame. But today we got a special guest, Flyers Assistant Director of Player Development, Nick Schultz, joins us. How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for being here. It's great to kind of get you guys on every once in a while. We had Johnny LeClaire on last week, so it's great to have you come on as well. So it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the Flyers prospects, and especially you focus more on the defensive prospects as well. So just want to kind of check in with you first and foremost. You spend a lot of time up in Lehigh Valley, but you also check in with the guys who are playing junior or wherever. Anyone really kind of impressing you right off the bat, like the first half of the season so far?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So we're kind of a lot of our main D prospects or closest guys, obviously, to helping the Flyers out are in Lehigh. So our main focus is there. But we got guys like Oliver Bonk and Spencer Gill are probably our top two D prospects playing in junior now. We got 6 total guys out in Canadian junior and college hockey playing. So we kind of, myself and Sammy Moran, focus on the D and keeping our tabs on them and constant communication with the kids and their coaches and just making sure their games looking good, and there's certain things they need to work on. We kind of stay on top of that with their coaches and the kids themselves. So.
And the guys, so is it a little bit different with the guys in Lehigh, because they're already property of the organization, like as far as playing for the organization, for the affiliate, as opposed to the kids that are playing in college or playing in junior?
Yeah, I think the guys in Lehigh too, we have our hands on a little bit more. We can be there, and where myself and Riley Armstrong lives there, we can we get on the ice with those guys and help out in practice, and kind of as Lappy and his staff run the practice, we can kind of be out there teaching and helping as we watch the drills, work on stuff for them after, and kind of we're at a lot of their games as well, just kind of watching these guys and helping them out and making sure that they're doing the right thing. So you see a guy like Emil Andre get called up, or Helge Grans, they're ready to play and be an impact up here, and those guys are in good spots there. So we got a good group there of guys kind of working and pushing from the minor league to be a Flyer one day. So,
and I wanted to ask you about those guys specifically, because the fans always ask about. Fans love prospects.
Yeah.
You probably see that yourself, right? The fans love the prospects. They love kids that come up and play. So we got a little taste of both Emil and Helge Grans. And they had to go back down. Obviously, got to do a little bit more down there. But what are you seeing refining and rounding out in their game that will get them back here to the Flyers sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think it was I think the organization numbers-wise, like we're in a good spot on the D side with the guys we have playing for the Flyers here, and we got an opportunity for those guys to develop and play big minutes down in Lehigh, which I think is good. Obviously, Emil came up. We had some injuries up here when Yorkie went down, and there were some guys out with Jamie, so you had some opportunity for Helge too to come up and play, and the coaches here to just kind of get a belief in them and see that these guys can play at the next level. And same for, I think, management and the team. Just kind of our job is kind of piece together when these guys are going to be able to to turn pro from college or junior and then make that step from Lehigh to the Flyers. So I think it's nice to see those guys step in and play and pushing from there, and I think it just makes the competitiveness of the team and these prospects and the Flyers here all that much better.
When it's a guy who's within your own organization and going back and forth between Lehigh and up here, it's one thing. When some of those guys went and played at World Juniors, they're not always being played in the same exact position or the same exact roles as they do within this organization. What's the communication like between the organization and each of those international teams that participated in juniors? Like, what is that communication? Is there any about getting intel from you, like what they need, all that?
Yeah, I think that's at a higher level. Like, that's kind of more with the management side, if those guys kind of deal with that. We just kind of focus on the kids, obviously, with their own teams, but that's a unique situation when guys go to that. Obviously, we saw with Carson there, the goalie, we thought he was going to be in the net playing, get an opportunity. He didn't. So there's certain things that go on that you would like it to have went a little bit different, or thought that he earned an opportunity to be in the net and get some time. So there's different things along those lines, but we're just there to support the guys. They got a lot our junior guys and college guys, we got to be careful. They got a lot of people in their ears with their agents and the coaches there, parents. There's lots going on, so we don't want to try to overcomplicate it for these guys. We're kind of in a good role. We have a great staff of guys that have played and been through and experienced a lot of different things, so we're there to kind of mentor and help these guys and make sure they're going down the right path so we can get them to pro hockey and really help them at this next level, become a Flyer. So.
And sometimes, Nick, that, and you know, obviously you played 17 years in the NHL, I think it was, right? Progression's not linear for everybody. Yeah. So like everybody's got to be kind of addressed differently and handled differently. What kind of a challenge is that for you, knowing, okay, maybe this kid is going through a tougher time right now? How do you address that and kind of keep the spirits up versus somebody who's playing great and you probably go, okay, he hasn't hit those roadblocks yet that I know he's going to hit because I went through them myself, in those growing pains. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's part of the job, and we have weekly calls every Monday. We hop on a call with the 6 guys on our staff and go over where each guy's at and if they're going through different situations and how we can handle each situation. Sometimes when guys are rolling, we just kind of leave them be, right? And to your point, when they do hit a roadblock, we want to be there to address that and help them and know that they can lean on us. We're not their coach. We don't control their ice time. So we can kind of communicate with the players, with the coaches there, and see what we can do to help these kids out. And everyone's going to run into roadblocks, and different things are going to happen along the way. That's part of developing and getting better each and every day and getting a chance to turn pro. So that's, from our standpoint, it's all, like you said, it's experiences that we've been through, or a lot of guys in our staff have been through, so we can really help these kids. And that's our job, is to really, our scouts do so much work, finding the talent and picking these guys, and then it's our job kind of to get our hands on them after that and make sure they can help the team out here.
I was asking LeClaire the other night about, the differences in his playing days versus now, and about like preparation and about nutrition and about the whole idea of like your body's a temple.
Yeah.
You haven't been that removed from the league. Is there anything that really stands out to you right now about what's a point of emphasis in player development, even like say away from the ice, just about taking care of themselves? Versus when you were still playing in the league?
Yeah, I think you see right now just the teams, the amount of the staff that teams have in those areas we didn't have when I started, drafted in 2000, started shortly after that. You were kind of on your own for breakfast, lunch. Now teams provide, meals for guys. They can show up at the rink. They got chefs, they got food there, they got nutritionists, they got everyone to kind of have these guys dialed in. There's no real excuse to not eat properly, not get the proper rest. With the training staff they have, with everyone they have in place. And there is more emphasis now since I went through the lockout, so since the salary cap came into place, and now you really have to build through the draft well, develop well. Like there wasn't development staffs before, because you could go out and if you had a team that had money, you could go and find players. You could get in free agency, but now you really have to draft well and develop well. So there's more of an emphasis on that, so it's fun for us to kind of be in those shoes and really help these kids and try to get them to the NHL level. But there's like so many resources for these guys. If kids are struggling mentally, if it's sports psych, there's all these different tools that we have that we can kind of guide these guys down certain paths to make sure they're doing it the right way.
Does it almost make you wish that you had that during your playing days?
I know I woke up and had like a bowl of Cheerios and went to the rink, and then after you're trying to, it's fun. I think now guys sit around at the rink. They have obviously they're all together eating and stuff. But we used to go for lunch always, a bunch of guys together. So I think that part of it was fun. But you're always trying to find somewhere to go. And now they can get to the rink, and when they get there, whatever time in the morning till they leave, they're taken care of, and then they can kind of go and do their thing after that. But I think it's a pretty good setup they have, and teams are really making sure guys are taken care of. I think because the league is so much younger now too, these guys have to learn the right way to do it to be a pro.
Well, and it's an interesting thing, and I was going to bring up, Russ and I go through this all the time, being from different generations, right? Mm-hmm. And so now you're dealing with a different generation of kids in a sense. Are they as receptive to the stuff that you guys are saying to them? Do you have to present it to them maybe differently than the way you would talk to your friends back in those days? Like, is it a different kind of conversation?
Yeah, it is a little bit different. Like you said, our staff, we kind of got different generations of guys that have been through different eras and played at different times. And I have a son that's 17 right now, so a lot of these guys we're drafting now, they're kind of a couple years older than he is. So I kind of gone through that and coached him kind of coming up too. So I know dealing with those kids is a lot different than what we were used to growing up, and parents and everything. It's all a little bit different. So you definitely have to be cautious how you deal with certain people and what they've gone through, and how you teach it, how you coach it. Now everyone's a little bit different what they respond to. So I think that's just kind of keeping up with the times and evolving and making sure you're doing it the right way and helping these guys.
Now, I'd never put you in a spot where you're naming names, because that's just. Has there ever been in this role a time where there's been a kid that has been difficult to work with or difficult to get on board, and then maybe it takes them a little bit longer to get their chance? Not that it's like a punitive thing, but it's just like, well, the guy didn't listen, and if he had, he probably would have put himself in better position. Like, does that kind of thing ever kind of like rear its head?
Yeah, we deal with guys. We got some guys that are, they're still trying to figure it out, and we're telling them at a college level, you need to do this if you want to become a pro. And if we don't see that in your game, it's going to be tough for us to go to management and be like, you need to sign this guy, or you have to show that what we're telling you. You're listening and you're responding and you're working at those areas of your game to get better, because it's important for us too to watch the levels and understand what the American Hockey League looks like, what the NHL looks like, what these different steps are, because it's important to understand if a kid from college can make the jump to the American League. And I think a lot of times here, when Helge Grans came up to the Flyers, everyone was kind of surprised by how he played, but sometimes coming up to the NHL level, playing with better players, some of those guys, it's a little bit simpler and easier for them. So you got to kind of watch and give those guys an opportunity to see if they can play.
And Bundy was saying that. He was saying, you get up here to this level, everything is so structured, whereas at a lower level, somebody's trying to impress.
For sure.
And it can kind of, and especially for defensemen, like you could be put in a bad spot in the AHL or in junior or in college by your partner because they're trying to do something and you didn't do anything wrong and looks bad. I guess the other difficult thing I think you probably guys have to go through, Nick, is that, like you said, you're not their coach, right? So when they're in college or they're in junior hockey, there's only so much you can really say about what they need to do, because it doesn't always necessarily jive with how they're being coached within that system, correct?
For sure, yeah. There's certain guys in certain situations where that, if they're being coached that way, that's just, we can affect that. We can affect how they play. But if their coach is telling them one thing, like you said before, we can't confuse these guys. If they're playing a certain system or certain style, they have to be able to adapt to that and play that, because every level is going to be different. You're going to have different style of coaches, different systems. So we want to see if these guys can adapt to that. And like you said, there's just certain details or fundamentals of their game that we'll watch and work more on that stuff than necessarily what type of system they're playing with their coaches. And we can never do that, go against it,
Sure.
where a kid is and that stuff. But like you said, we're just kind of trying to help them and look at different, if it's skating, if it's defending, if it's their stick, whatever it is, different details of that we can show them clips on and work with them. And all of it, we kind of communicate with their coaches too, and understand if there's certain things that they're seeing that we can help too, and be like, your coach is saying this, we can need you to continue to work on this and help in that regard too.
Is there a player within the organization right now that fans maybe don't have on the tip of their tongue that you look at and you say, all right, like if this guy does a few things the right way, maybe there's a path? Like, is there somebody that you can think of that, all right?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest guy right now is Alex Bump, that's playing in Western Michigan. He was, I think, a 5th-round pick of ours. He was, playing in high school hockey, someone that Brent Flair knew really well, and he's a great kid. He just plays the game the right way. He plays hard. He's got some good skill. He's got some grit to him. I just think he's going to be a great flyer, and he's probably, just from where he was picked, he's not one of the top couple rounds, but he's progressing really well. Western Michigan's got a great team. I think he's someone that, within a couple years here is going to look really good in the Flyers uniform.
Bump and bonk.
I know, right? That'd be kind of fun, right?
We got
a bunch of verbs and onomatopoeia.
Well, I wanted the last question for you, Nick, and then we'll let you roll. I did want to ask you about Oliver and Spencer Gill. Obviously, you mentioned them briefly. The fans all know that they're the top prospects that aren't with the team or with the Phantoms. What are you seeing out of them this season versus where they were a season ago?
Yeah, I think Gill was a surprise. The team was really excited to get him in the second round where we picked him. So I think he impressed at training camp too. So I got an exhibition game and we got a chance to play preseason a little bit, and management, coaches really excited with him. He's similar to Igor, where he's got some length to him. So those guys, it's always a challenge to put on weight, which is going to be the biggest thing for him, just to get him a little bit stronger. But he's just such a smart player. He sees the game, and he's poised. He's confident with the puck. He defends really well. His details of his game are really good. He's in Rimouski right now. He's going to host the Memorial Cup, so he's got a good run, hopefully, here to try to win the Quebec League, and then have some. With the Memorial Cup, there will be some good hockey for him down the road here, and then he'll be training in the off season, just trying to continue to build his frame and get him a little bit stronger. But he's got he's obviously a great pick for us, and for Bonk, he'll be someone that'll turn pro now, coming out of Canadian Junior after this year. But he's on a great team. Same thing, look for another OHL title and compete in the Memorial Cup. So obviously all the guys on Hockey Canada didn't have a great showing at World Juniors. Didn't go well for the team. I thought he played okay, for the way that the team didn't have a exceptional tournament, but he's someone that keeps progressing, and I think it's with every guy it's going to be taking that next step and making sure we're there to help him throughout the course of this season and throughout the summer, making sure he's doing the right things, ready for training camp in the fall. Great.
Nick Schultz, Assistant Director of Player Development for the Flyers. Thanks for a few minutes here today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your time. And this is your first time on Snow the Goalie too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we got to have you back again, right, Russ?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Glad to be on. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a big game tonight. I don't know if you know this or not. It is, in fact, a pretty big game against the Florida Panthers. They happen to be a very good team, Anthony. They tend to be a team that is always in cup contention. He's not even looking. There you go.
I'm listening to you. I'm saying goodbye to Nick.
Well, that was very nice of you.
Yeah.
Saint Nick. What? Wait. There he is. There he is.
The man of the hour.
Dan Hilferty.
The man of the hour, which we didn't even talk about yet.
Oh, we'll get there in a second. I want to make something known.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to you about this, but you're not going to care.
I know.
One thing that I have noticed, and we are actively working on, I just want a little bit of transparency because I think it's good with this show.
Yeah.
We have already started to plan out the rest of the season when we're going to be doing regular Snow the Goalie, because somebody brought it up today. I poked fun at it like a month ago when we did a show in the studio. I was like, people think we're done doing the show. And somebody brought up, you guys really haven't done a lot of regular Snow the Goalies since October. And I went, that's not good. So we are working on that. There will be one this week. It'll either be in that studio or it'll be from home. During the Press Row show, over the years, we have tended to answer a lot of questions. I've noticed that this year we haven't done as much answering of the questions. Intern Andrew does a great job. He pulls all the questions up. He pulls all the comments up. You are under no obligation to do this, but I will guarantee you this, and you might have noticed this all season. If you submit a super chat over on YouTube, we always get to your question and your comment and your concern. You are under no obligation to submit a super chat.
Oh, I thought you were saying I was under no obligation.
No.
I'm sorry.
I would love for you to submit a super chat. But if you want to get your question 100% guaranteed that we're going to pull it up, answer it, whatever, as long as you don't have horribly offensive language in it, we will bring it up. We'll answer the question on the show. We'll try to get to as many as we can, but that is your 100% locked-in, guaranteed way to make sure that we answer the question or bring up the comment during the stream. I think that's fair. So just throwing that out to you. It's available over on YouTube. If you're on Facebook or X, go to YouTube. Okay, let's get into the show. Now, I just saw Eric Berkey just pointed out that I showed where the studio is. It's hidden. It's kind of like being at Wayne Manor, right?
That's what he said. It's
like the
Wayne
Batman.
Manor. Yeah.
I'm Batman.
It is. It's behind a bookcase.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely cool. Oh, look at Andrew Fawcett. This man always follows the instructions. He's a great guy. Andrew Fawcett says, Snow the Goalie topic, the quarter-century team. We are going to break that down in explicit detail on the show this week. But before we get there, we could give the people a taste of some of our
Let's
thoughts.
wait for Bundy, though, for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe
we
it might not be...
We have it starred. We'll make sure that we come back to it when Bundy's here.
Yeah.
It'll either happen during pregame, but he comes here a little bit late, or
Probably
it'll definitely be first intermission.
Yeah.
But we will get to that. It is certainly interesting, to say the least. Roy McMullen here with a very good $5 super chats for each tubular meat Russ eats. I could get in on that. By the way, intern Andrew the other day, he looked at me and he was like, Russ, I'm gonna go get a TM. And I'm like, what? He goes, I'm gonna go get a TM. And I immediately, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is saying a tubular meat, a TM. And I said, if you eat enough of those, you'll have a good BM. Bowel bowel
got
movement.
you.
Yeah, see?
I
well,
got
I'm just
you.
making sure that for all the people
I'm
under
trying
60
not to
out
laugh
there.
out.
Oh, that's right. You can't laugh because then you'll start coughing.
Yeah.
Anyway, you might notice I'm sitting closer to Ant. I'm pretty sure he's not contagious anymore. If I'm like dead in a week. Anyway, I do want to get into, and by the way, it's Dollar Dog Night. I don't know if you know that or not. Now, we don't have to worry because of the press box,
yes,
but it
that's
is
right.
Dollar Dog Night.
I forgot it was Dollar Dog
down
Night.
here. So is it a violation on the organization to put a gimmick like Dollar Dog on a game that is already going to be one that people are going to want to come out to in the Panthers? Should they have attached this to a bottom-feeding team to try to pull people out? Or is this just, like, very nice of them? That,
It's a Monday in January.
Yes, but it's the Panthers.
But it's a Monday in January.
Yes, but there are stars. The stars are going to be on the ice. Come on. No.
So it's a Monday in January.
At least the playoffs aren't the playoffs are happening tonight, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Did I seriously just see a question about a hot dog being a sandwich? All right, anyway. Let's get into tonight's game. The Panthers have been on a bit of a run. However, they have not been blowing out the opposition, which is maybe one thing that people would assume going into this one. And I know that I talked to Bundy earlier, and I said, I wonder, do they get boat raced tonight? And he's like, no, they don't get boat raced. I said, all right. So start taking a little bit of a look. They played some competitive games. They played a lot of close games. And the Flyers have had a very up-and-down stretch here over the last week or so. Played two very competitive games against Toronto, 3-2 results in both. The game against Dallas is an absolute bleep show. And then they have that 6-0 outburst against Anaheim. What do you expect tonight? Which version of the Flyers are we going to see?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think Florida wins, but I think it's a close game. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think the Flyers, you're going to hear a lot about, hey, the way that they played the other night against Anaheim. Anaheim stinks. But
They do.
that they did play a very structured game, the Flyers.
Yes.
And that's why Anaheim looked so bad. You play that structured game against Florida, you can hang with them. And they've done it in the past. And so I think that the Flyers will give you that. I don't worry about this being a hangover game. I don't. I know it's not going to be nearly as loud in here as it was on Saturday, and that could be a little bit of a letdown at the beginning of a game. But I also know that teams get up for playing the best teams. And, Florida.
I don't think it's going to be that loud as it was against Gauthier the rest of the season.
No, not until he comes back next year.
Well, hopefully they have a better team.
They
next
might
year.
you know what, though? You might get some against Pittsburgh next month. They play Pittsburgh twice in 2 weeks. You get some Crosby booers. Yeah, you might.
It's not going to be the same, though.
No.
You yourself admitted this the other day. Like, it's the hatred for Crosby isn't quite the same because Pittsburgh's also not a cup contending team that you're not like missing out on it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
No, I think it's a close game. I think they play well defensively.
It could be a hangover game.
I think that they had to go Urson in this game because if you look at it, you got back to backs, right? So he was only going to play one of the two. Do you play him against Florida or do you play him in Columbus? Florida's the better offensive team, so you probably play Urs tonight. And
who's in net?
I think it's Fedotov tomorrow.
I like Fedotov. I've been happy with what we've gotten out of Fedotov.
It's only 2 games, but yeah, okay.
That's all you need. That's all you need, baby. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Get the man in net. I want to bring something up that I noticed earlier today. Bill Meltzer put the quote out.
Yeah.
But Tortorella today, we can even go back to Tortorella from the other night. Tortorella the other day didn't want to answer questions about Gauthier or what the game meant to the team and the fact that the team was kind of alluding to the fact that that game meant a little bit more. And he dropped some profanity and said, it's all kind of like, that's for you in the media. That's the media. That's the media. It's media. Just totally ignoring the fact that, like, the players had kind of said that it was a more important game or it was something that they had kind of focused in on. Never mind the fact that the Flyers organization last year kind of stoked some of those fires. Never mind the fact that John Tortorella himself had said things like, I wouldn't know Cutter from a hole in the wall, and also said, I don't give a bleep what Cutter Gauthier has to say. I'm not answering questions about it. He then follows that up today with, there's a question asked about Rasmus Ristolainen, and he essentially says, well, it's this, it's all BS from the media that Risto has this, that Risto's a bad player. It's all a media-driven narrative kind of thing is the point that he was making. And I sat back and I went, when the hell did Torts get so soft? Like, that's now multiple games within the same week that it's the media, it's the media, it's the media. Why? It's not. The media, I think, this year has been more than fair to Risto. Many of us have said that he's played the best hockey, maybe of his career this year. So why is Tortorella going back to the media card? Is he trying to galvanize the team and it's us versus them? What is it? What's the point?
Yeah. I mean, look, the media will forever be blamed for everything in sports. Whenever something goes bad or a player's not playing well, it'll always be our fault. In every sport. It's not just hockey, not just the Flyers. It happens all the time. We sensationalize everything. We make everything something that it shouldn't be. Blah, blah,
There
blah,
is
blah,
some
blah.
truth to that. It depends on the situation.
Well, let me put it
I
this way.
listened to Sports Talk Radio today. How are the Eagles going to win in spite of Jalen Hurts? Jesus.
I mean,
which means they didn't watch any of the film, which means that they just happened to miss Orlovsky's breakdown today about nobody getting open. Like, sometimes it is the media.
Yeah, but
like sometimes.
Okay, so
or talking heads on the radio versus journalists or whatever.
Yeah,
pick your poison.
The sensationalism era is more now than it ever was before. I agree with that. Like there was a time when we didn't care about the hot take. Like we just put the news out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a dying art. But even still, I mean, even in the hot take era, it's no different than fans talking to each other. I mean, no disrespect to fans. Fans can have any opinion that they want. But I urge, like any good Flyers fan, and I mean a good Flyers fan, watches the games, knows what they're watching, pays attention, whatever. I urge you to go on to a Flyers Facebook group page just to see the comments. They are the most asinine comments you'll ever see.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
there's some bad takes.
It's awful.
Reddit's like that too.
Reddit.
I know. I assume you don't really live on Reddit much. I occasionally check in. I'm mostly afraid.
I don't live. I have an app. I go on it.
I am mostly afraid of Reddit.
I don't live on it.
They also don't like us all the time on Reddit.
No, I don't care if people like me or not. That's
I
irrelevant.
do. That's all I care about in this life.
But the reality...
Anytime somebody says anything negative, I've almost shut down a couple of YouTube channels, as everyone knows.
The point I'm trying to make is that even with the more sensationalist media today, it's no different than what the fans have been saying forever and what the fans do sitting around when they used to just be guys sitting in a bar. Now it's everybody on Reddit or social media, whatever. It's what it is. I mean, teams have ignored the fans for years to do what they think is right.
Yeah.
So if John Tortorella thinks Rasmus Ristolainen is mislabeled, it's not the media that's doing it. It's everybody doing it, right? So, like, I don't understand what the rationale behind it is.
I just thought it was a very strangely timed thing. And listen, I get it. There are people who believe that we are just an anti-torts show, an anti-torts podcast. I'll try not to curse. But, like, I need people to understand something. And this might not go over well, but I'll say it. I really don't care. Like, when we're done doing this show every night, I go home and I don't think about John Tortorella. I don't think about the Flyers. I think about being a husband and a dad. I think about doing my job. I think about getting together with the people that I like here a lot. And we do a show. But, like, I don't think any of us harbor ill will for the coach. I just don't understand why anytime there's something he doesn't want to talk about, he blames the media for it. And then, of course, there are sycophants who then go to his defense. Oh, it is the media. I guarantee you that if we did a general collection of posts and stories written this season by the better outlets, I guess, the more reputable outlets, and then some of the better bloggers, I would guarantee you that 75% of it has been probably positive around Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah.
Like a single game notwithstanding. I think the coverage around him this year has been significantly better I mean, even if you look at eye test guys, Bundy's a big eye test guy, has said Risto has looked fantastic. Analytics guys like Charlie O'Connor have said Risto's had a good year. I don't know who he thinks in the media is taking a poo-poo all over Risto. I just don't get, I don't know where's he getting his news from? He says he doesn't read any of it. He doesn't listen to any of it. Well, then who are the people that he's allegedly not listening to or reading that have had negative things to say about Ristolainen this year? To me, it was just misguided. And following the Gauthier thing and the way that he answered things, it just feels like that's the new thing for him. That's what his official tick and response is going to be, is that it's the media, the media, the media.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but hi, guys.
Hi, Bundy.
Hi, everybody.
In your career, how often did the media come up as a locker room talking point or a head coach saying, the media doesn't believe in you, or the media is saying this about you specifically or about the team, and use that as a rallying cry? Did it happen much?
We were just told they're all a bunch of clowns and just be careful what you say to them.
And did you bring your red nose tonight?
You know what? Listen, you know what's funny? When I look back at the media, too, yes, Terry Murray was like that. He would warn us about the media. Don't tell them anything positive. Don't tell them anything negative. Don't tell them anything. You know what? This is actually be a good conversation someday, Anthony, to look at our two sides of the stories from over the years.
Yeah.
I would have been a lot better with the media now than I was when I was a kid.
But you were never a problem.
No, I don't think I was. I never really was. I didn't say much.
I mean, you didn't have to be bothered game in, game out, practice after practice because of the position you played, and you weren't an offensive-minded player. You know, unless there was a mistake, nobody was coming to Bundy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You had to make a mistake for people to want to talk to you.
I remember one year, I'll tell you this story. I got in trouble my first year in the league. We went on a 9-game winning streak, and one of the reporters, I think it was actually Chuck Gormley, said, "What do you think of this team?" And I was a 22-year-old or whatever, and I said, it was my rookie year, and I said, along the lines of, a team that's playing this well could wind up in the Stanley Cup. Being a rookie, I said that. And the reporter printed it the next day, but it didn't have my name attached to it. And it said, "Flyers are cup bound," says a Flyer player. And I'm like, well, that's not what I said. I said a team that's playing this well, I would assume could go very deep in the playoffs as far as the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I never spoke to the media again after that. I was like, I felt kind of kicked almost, but I didn't mean anything by it. I didn't mean
you were young. You were young, so it's like
I didn't mean I was cup bound, and Murray wanted to know who said it, and I went and told McTavish after. I think that was me that said that, but I certainly didn't say it like, yeah, we're going to be cup bound. I meant we're playing well, and I think that's probably a good team. If you're playing well is in a shortened season. It was a lockout season.
Yeah.
And Mac T kind of don't worry about it, Bundy. It was nothing.
And that's one of those things that journalistic integrity-wise, a young player says that, and probably as a journalist, you're supposed to have a little bit of a filter, maybe have a better way to.
The writer should have said to Bundy, I'm going to, I want to use that, but can I use it anonymously?
Yeah.
And then get your permission. And if you said yes, then it's a different story. But to do it that way is kind of
to a young player.
Yeah, it's not.
We had a team meeting about it, and I mean, I couldn't have felt any lower. I didn't even know what I did. I didn't mean it with any kind of, well, we're better than everybody else. I didn't mean it like that. I was humbled and grateful to be on the team.
You were just trying to give an honest answer.
Just trying to give an answer of what I thought we were playing like, and that was it. But somebody asked me what I thought of Terry Murray. I love Terry Murray. I love Terry Murray. Yeah. He changed he benched me when a player was supposed to be benched, and it turned my whole life and career around in terms of what my NHL trajectory was. I mean, he made me a player. Didn't know if I'd be in the league in January of '97. 3 weeks later, I was Eric Desjardins' partner for the rest of my career.
Really quick prediction.
I'm going Flyers 5-4. Got to carry that momentum.
3-2 Flyers.
I'll take the Panthers 5-2.
And I have the Panthers 3-2. All right, we'll talk
no,
about
I said mine was 3-2 Panthers. I'm sorry.
What?
Mine was 3-2 Panthers.
Did you just say Flyers?
I just said Flyers.
Okay, but you mean Panthers.
I meant Panthers.
All right, well, anyway, the national anthem's going on, so we'll...
it's picking both teams.
All right. It's picking both hedging. Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show. This side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, and south of the 52nd state, Canada. Russ, Ant, Bundy, intern Andrew on the ones and twos. We are back. The Flyers are not. I actually don't know if the Flyers have shown up to the building tonight.
Maybe they went to the new building.
Yeah, I've heard that there might be a new building going on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's where they're at. Maybe that's where they're at.
Because they're certainly not here. They certainly didn't show up in the first period.
Quiet building, because the problem is we got treated as such an absolute roughhouse the other night, and then tonight it's like a funeral. Again, it's quiet. There's not a lot going on in the building. You know, that's why the Flyers got to create their own energy. When you fall down 2-0 and the second goal that was let in was a regular routine shot, that's not going to make the fans come out of their seats. So, unfortunately, we got treated to a villain the other night in Philadelphia, and they responded accordingly. But tonight, it's a night you got to create your own music out there, and the Flyers have yet to do so in that first period.
I mean, maybe we need more villains in this city. Although I don't like the fact that you're not going to have a villain every night.
No, you're not.
And this is a game that you should have circled on the calendar anyway, just by virtue of who it is and what it means for them to come to town. And they've played. I mean, the Dallas game sucked. There's no getting around it. But we keep coming back to this, and I don't know how long we're going to hang on to it. But they played such competitive games against Toronto that, like, it just seemed not inconceivable that they would come out as slow as they have in this game. But they just don't look sharp. They look like they have no jump. Like, Bundy, what do you attribute it to? Is it really just a hangover from the emotion of the other game? Can you like break down for people like how that adrenaline just wear off and you're collapsed 2 days later? Like, what is it?
I think me and Anthony picked the Flyers for the same reason.
I didn't pick the Flyers. I accidentally said that.
He did, and then he didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I took them because
I texted you guys Florida 3-2.
I was actually thinking to myself that the Flyers would carry that momentum from the other night. You know, you got a team up in Florida. They had a lot of fairy dust when they played teams like this last year. I just thought they would carry that momentum of a 6-0 shutout into the next game. But listen, this is a far, far superior team than Anaheim. They have good players. They weren't up against the entire city of Philadelphia as they were the other night because of Cutter Gauthier. So. It was a flat first period. Still 40 minutes to play, but that was not a good first period by the Flyers.
I don't want to criticize them because I don't want to be accused of the media with having narratives about the team.
That silly podcast.
Including the power play.
The Rocky Thompson Horror Show?
The Rocky Thompson Horror Show.
Shirts coming soon to shop.snowthegoalie.com.
0 for 2, and they get up a shorty, right? Not that it was the...
That shorty was something else, too. I'll tell you what, that Reinhart saw. He saw TK as a defender, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to try to take advantage of this, and he did. And that was an unbelievable goal.
Yeah, it was a great goal.
Great goal.
Poor play by DK.
Can I ask a question here? I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. When is the last time that a special teams unit on any team or a position coach on any team in the city has been able to put together such piss-poor results year over year over year and keep that job as an assistant coach or as the person running that special teams unit or running that aspect of the team, as Rocky Thompson has with this power play? I get that it's not an incredibly skilled group of players, but man, year over year over year, it is an absolute killer. It costs this team points. I don't want this team to get a ton of points. We know where I stand on the rebuild, but it's almost inconceivable how incompetent this team looks with the man advantage. I mean, hell, even when AV was the coach, he flip-flopped Therien and Yo. He gave it a shot. I mean, it didn't work, but he at least tried something. Why is Rocky Thompson Teflon? Like, what am I missing? Can anybody explain it?
It's because it's not... You don't have the talent here, regardless of who the coach is. You can bring in the greatest power play coach to ever walk the face of the planet. The reality is, with the players you have on this team, they're just not good.
They should be able to...
So a power play is about skill.
Yeah.
Right? So you need skilled players.
Sure.
Just because you have an odd number advantage over the other team, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the ability to score the goal. Is it you have more room? Should it be easier? Yeah, it should be easier. But if you don't have the skill, it doesn't matter who's coaching them.
Yeah, but I don't even mean it that way. I just mean like, okay, so let's think of who the higher paid players are in this team and think of who the skilled guys are supposed to be, right? Konechny has a big contract. He should be able to score on the power play or contribute to it. Matvei Mishkov has had, he's had some struggles of late, but he has the skill. He has the requisite playmaking ability. He should be able to contribute on power play. Travis Sanheim was paid to be...
Yeah, but no, he's not that. He's not that guy.
Yeah, but
he's not that guy. So that's where
Jamie Drysdale.
You're starting to get to the starting to get to the root of the problem, which is they don't have somebody to play the quarterback in.
Correct.
That's what they really don't.
Drysdale's supposed to be that guy,
right, Bundy? I mean, I you could sit there and say, okay, maybe they don't have a net front guy. They don't really have that either, but you need the quarterback more than anything else.
You do. You need to have that presence of the guy that you could just kind of scare defenders enough with your puck ability that they give you just enough space that you can make a play. It's the smallest little thing. It really is a power play. It's not what you're looking at the setup. It's the amount of poise the player has on the power play, especially at the point position. Flyers move the puck fine, but I'm telling you, I've been on power plays with guys like I've been on them, but I've seen guys like Sergei Zubov. Just an amazing power play point guy. Just has such poise. Desjardins was a good point guy as well. Kimmo Timonen. Niedermeyer was the best. I mean, he was unbelievable at it. Just making a fake pass one way, subtly making a pass the other direction. It just takes time off, and it allows the pressure to come off your players. That's what a great power play point guy really does. Allows that player to take the pressure off the other players on the ice to make plays.
Because I think what ends up happening, and tell me if I'm wrong, Bundy, but I think what ends up happening is if you don't have a guy at the point who's a threat in any capacity, the box that the penalty kills playing against you is going to get smaller and tighter.
Yep.
And so if you're not going to be able to get the shots through. Like you have to be a threat up there to get a shot on goal, but also to make quick decisions to be able to move the puck fast. You don't want to just sit there and hold it all the time.
And a power play might only get you one or two chances. If it's going good. Sometimes it gets you none. But if you want to try to get at least 1-2 good chances on the net, and I think sometimes the Flyers struggle with that. You look at Florida's power play; it didn't score, but it had 1 or 2 good chances. They had a wide open shot with a lane open for the puck to get to the net. So it's all about what you have and what you present the other team's power or penalty kill.
Jeff Rose actually asks a nice question here, and then we'll get to intern Andrew's stat of the night. Says there are players that have showed improvement, but has the team improved?
Well, no. But
goaltending's been bad. Would you say that the rest of the team, if you remove the down factor of goaltending, would you say the team as a whole?
I think defensively they're pretty good. They don't score.
It's hard to score. They have a hard time scoring in big games. I mean, they do.
I always go back to the old Charlie Manuelism. Well, if you score more runs than the other team, you probably gonna win the ball game. So if you don't score more goals than the other team, probably gonna struggle. All right, let's bring in our man in Japan, none other than the great intern Andrew. How you doing, fella? How you feeling tonight?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
It's a beautiful night down here, and there's
super zoom, by the way, on his computer today.
It was like that the other day too. I don't know.
I am?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So you touched on it, Bundy. The Reinhart shorthanded goal was a pretty impressive goal for him. Worth noting that Konechny was the one that led the league in shorthanded goals last year with 6, and Reinhart was second with 5. Well, that was Reinhardt's 5th this season already.
Wow.
We're only like halfway through the year. So worth noting that that was Reinhardt's 10th career shorthanded goal. That puts him ahead of Pavel Bure for 4th all-time in the Panthers' shorthanded list.
Okay.
1 is Radek Dvorak, 2 Barkov, and 3 is Tom Fitzgerald.
Okay.
The other thing worth noting, to bring all of this full circle, Reinhart is now the second player in the last 20 years to get 5 or more shorthanded goals in consecutive seasons. The only other guy...
Wait. Do you want to make this a trivia thing?
You can take a guess if you want.
Wait, so say this again?
Reinhart is now the second player in the last 20 years to get 5 or more shorthanded goals in consecutive seasons.
Okay.
Who's the other one?
Was it Richards?
It's Mike Richards. Good stat, right?
That is a good stat.
Good stat. Very good stat. I got to answer this before we go on to a couple other topics, because
What's that?
Phila Originals, who I love, one of our regulars, but he's giving me a lot of grief. right now because I said
Don't attack the listener.
because I said TK made a bad play on that shorthanded goal, which is true. And he's like, how dare you not rip Drysdale? Jamie Drysdale has stunk for the entire season, except for the game against Anaheim the other night. The entire season, the guy's been bad. He's not done anything well. He's not been good on the power play. He's been bad in his own zone, right? But what happens at the end of the play, I pointed out that TK gets turned inside out by Reinhart on the goal. That's not taking away from saying that Drysdale didn't make a bad play. He did. But, it's usually a multiplayer meltdown that leads to a goal, right?
Philly Originals was mad that I blamed TK. Drysdale was a part of it. He could have come back harder through the middle. But I'm going to be honest with you, that's the price you pay for putting a forward back on the point in the power play.
Yeah.
And if it's a one-on-one, that guy's going to go right at the forward because he's not adept at playing one-on-one defense. So TK got toasted. His jock was left in the stands, and Reinhart made an unbelievable play. That's just the truth. There's nothing else about it. That's the flat, honest truth.
Yeah.
Nothing against TK. He tried. He failed.
Correct.
And a goal was scored.
I'm just going to keep coming back to this from now until the time my face turns blue. If this whole thing is a meritocracy, Drysdale shouldn't be playing. I don't know. I know that there are people who looked at Emil Andre's last stint and said that he fell off at the end. I know that people think that Helge Grans isn't meant to be up here at this point. Jamie Drysdale, if this is really a meritocracy and you earn your time, he does not need to be on the ice every game. To me, I openly question what the rationale is other than bad optics. Because I don't see it. We've talked, Bundy, what's the thing that you always say about defensemen? You never want to talk about them. If you do a good job as a defenseman, we never talk about you.
Yep.
So
Who do we talk about almost every god-darn game? It's Jamie freaking Drysdale. And we're not crazy, and we don't always agree on everything with this team. But the three of us, pretty much consensus, almost every game the guys played in have said, lets the game come to him flat-footed, out of position, seems to have little to no desire to get physical, to get in the dirt. I don't know what we're doing here.
So the answer, honestly, is they know Andre and Grans need to get their baseline a little bit higher before they can be up here regularly. They just have to. Okay. So once that happens, you'll see them up here, and it won't be long. It'll be probably by the deadline, and then they'll be back up here playing.
That kind of feels like it's sort of contingent on a deal, though, doesn't it? Are they going to come up if Risto doesn't get dealt, for example? Risto's name continues to be murmured about, but if they don't make a trade on the blue line, you still think that they could end up back up here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, at least one of them. If they don't make a trade, it's probably only one of them.
Yeah.
Right. But if they do make a trade, then maybe both of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I honestly also don't think that they're going to stick with 3 goalies for the rest of the year.
I still don't know why they're sticking with 3 right now.
They have to because of Urson's health situation.
Okay. Prior to that?
No, but he's been hurt for a while, since the beginning of November. Mm-hmm. He's really, he got hurt, what was it, November 1st, I think that was the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's really when it first happened, that they had 3. So, they were on the verge. We talked that day, prior to that game, that they were on the verge of sending Fedotov out on a conditioning assignment, just to kind of punt it another 2 weeks down the road, and then he got hurt.
Yes.
So, and he's been
Ersson,
right? Yeah. And so then it's happened that he came back, got hurt again, came back, got hurt again. So that's why they're kind of doing it.
And they've been riding him since he's back this time, which is interesting.
Not riding. It's what, three straight games? That's not riding him.
Well, coming off his 3rd lower body injury, one could argue that it's interesting.
Yeah.
An interesting.
So we'll see. We did promise that we would talk about briefly the all-quarter century team of the Flyers.
Yeah.
And we are going to get into more detail about it, more granular. I think maybe we'll even come up with our own versions, potentially, of what these teams could have looked like on Snow the Goalie this week on the regular podcast.
All I'll say is they really botched this one.
Yeah, it's not. It's not good.
I didn't make it, in case anybody's wondering.
So, and I want to read what
I'll pull them up. I'll pull them up on the.
I thought there would have been like 3 teams of each one. So,
No, but there was a press release, and I want to find the press release.
All right, I'm going to pull up the actual quarter century.
I don't want to
team.
take anything away from anybody, but there's some changes I would have made.
Yeah, and it said the nominees were selected by a panel of media. I wasn't asked.
Who are the media?
It doesn't say. Retired players.
Why did they hold on? Why did the media
Wait,
get to pick? Torts already
hold-
says that it's all media
Hold
driven
on.
narrative. Why did
Panel of media, so I wasn't asked. Retired players.
I was not
Bundy,
asked.
Were you asked?
Never asked.
Oh,
Been in the
okay.
media here for almost 20 years.
And executives specific to the club. And I don't think that Danny Briere is picking himself.
Was loudmouth jackass a category? Because if it was and I wasn't asked, that's another problem.
Right, exactly.
Interns?
No.
No interns asked.
So,
I would have put you on my list, Bundy.
I don't really care about being on lists like that. I have my own list I was on. It was good enough. I played a long time here. That's the best
you
list.
would be honorable mention.
There's no doubt because I was here for at least the first 4 or 5 years were good years until after the lockout. But my better years probably were in the late 90s. But I still had some really good games in the early 2000s. So
Provorov is on.
there's no way he should not be on that list. I would have put Braden Coburn on there before him.
Let's do this because we're about to run out of time.
All right.
Second intermission.
We'll bring it back.
We'll do a surface level about the quarter century team and we'll analyze the game. And then this week on Snow the Goalie, we'll do a much more in-depth thing and we'll probably come up with our own first and second teams. That'll be a fun thing. The fans can do that. They can send it to us. They can DM it to us. They can email it to us. We do some comparisons, share some notes.
We'll
all
see
that
in a
kind
bit.
of fun stuff. Bundy's out. All right. Time for us to go. Anything else you want to say before we head
30
up?
seconds.
30 seconds is a
And
long
we still
time.
haven't even talked about the building.
What building?
The one that we're in.
It's still standing.
Yeah.
But for how much longer?
Exactly.
Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, and south of the 52nd state, Canada. I got it all in one breath that time. Russ, Ant, Bundy, intern Andrew on the ones and twos, getting himself ready for trivia time. Now, before we get into what we kind of teased in the first intermission, which is a little discussion around the Flyers quarter-century team, we do have to talk about the fact that Ryan Poehling helped the Flyers pull back into that period a little bit. It is now only a 1-goal lead. Not quite as dangerous as the 2-goal lead.
I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to hear us talk about it though. After you just blew their ears out with that.
I know.
Intro.
I did the wrong intro. That's my fault. Did anybody complain yet or no?
Not yet.
All right, that's good.
But you know what? And I'll let Bundy really dive into this a little bit more. Yeah, the Poehling goal. It was a nice goal, simple play. Gardner Hathaway comes down the wall, just throws it in front. Poehling's crashing the net, stick on the ice, taps it in. Nice goal.
Isn't that what a team that isn't very skilled is supposed to put the puck on the net? Yeah, okay.
But it was a really good period.
Yes.
Like they played, it was night and day from the first period to the second. They looked a lot more like they did on Saturday in the second period than they did in the first period.
They played much better, and you're right about that goal. Just a simple play. Just go down the wing. A player was in front of his net with the stick down on the ice, and he had better positioning on the defenseman. I believe it was Nate Schmidt. And Poehling just got out-battled him for space and ended up getting the goal. That's a simple play. Flyers were much better that period. They were better than Florida in that period. Florida was a little bit too loosey-goosey with the way they were trying to come out of the zone. I think the 2-0 start kind of got them into a zone of being comfortable, and that's not a good thing against the Flyers because they don't really quit. They will continue coming at you, and a 2-1 lead doesn't look like something that's so sizable right now for Florida. The Flyers, the way they're playing, and they need to keep it up, have a real chance to get back in this hockey game.
Several people are saying that Poehling didn't actually touch that.
And that it might end up being Hathaway's goal.
Might end up being Hathaway's goal.
Okay.
We are unfortunately limited a little bit up here in terms of
we have nothing as
la
far as
tecnología
replays.
que existe aquí. It's not very good.
We get only what they show in the building.
Yeah.
So you get that one replay that they show the fans.
One.
And that's it. And
Correct.
it's not always the greatest angle.
There's a slight delay between the little TV up here that leaves something to be desired, and the big Jumbotron's great. Just, you know.
So it appears, I guess it'll be Garnet Hathaway's goal. We'll see if they make the change. Sounds like everybody's pretty much on board with it.
Yep.
Appreciate the help, guys. A little tap in for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why we have the best viewers in the business.
We do.
Here on the #1 rated pregame and intermission postgame show. Would you like to do trivia time first, or should we do the quarter century?
No, let's do the quarter century.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
And remember, we are going to break this down later this week on an actual episode of Snow the Goalie that we are going to legitimately do this week. So we'll do a much more in-depth discussion. But I did have it pulled up. I think I still have it pulled up over here. I want to get into the Flyers named their quarter-century teams. It was 2 lineups, and they were questionable, to say the least. Let's throw this up on the screen. So this is what came out. First up, the first team: Simone Gagne, Claude Giroux, Mike Richards. Defensemen Eric Desjardins and Kimmo Timonen. In goal, Roman Cechmanek. Do we want to discuss that one, or do we want to also bring up the second team?
I have more of a problem with the second group, but I don't know. I don't know if Richards would be on my first quarter-century team.
No, he would not be on my first team.
Yeah.
I'm fine with everybody else. Cechmanek, it's interesting is with a goaltender, like, holy Jesus, Cechmanek's on the first team? That's what they've had for goaltending here?
I know.
Like, and then the second team, who was it again?
Cechmanek only played 3 years here, right? Am I crazy? Was it longer than that? In the 2000s? Yeah, it was 3 years in the 2000s. That's kind of shocking to me that he's the top pick there in net on the first team.
Well, I mean, if you go by numbers, his numbers were off the charts in the regular season. I mean, like his...
I like Mike Richards as a player, but he wasn't here long enough for that. I mean, he was I played with him. He was a rookie. He was a good little player. He was learning. He became captain. But the first team, I would put Wayne Simmons there or Jeff Carter. And Carter wasn't here any longer, though, really.
And neither one of them are on the second team, which is where my issue comes in.
All right, so let's get to the second team, and then we can kind of take a holistic view. So the second team: Danny Briere, Sean Couturier, Jake Voracek, defenseman Chris Pronger, Ivan Provorov, and in net Brian Boucher.
First of all, the most glaring to me is Provorov.
Oh,
Like there are several defensemen that should be on that list, including the guy to my left, ahead of Provorov. Braden Coburn is to me the one that should be on the list.
Yeah,
like, and not even close. Like, I think he was easily, if you're going top 4 defensemen of the Flyers in the last 25 years, if you don't list Coburn, you didn't watch hockey.
yeah, I agree. I mean,
Like,
you know, and if they form a pair like that, it has to stand for something. Like him and Timonen were a rock solid pair.
Yes.
You know,
and much in the way you and Rico were.
Right. You know, maybe we had the turn of the millennium, though, so it kind of cut off the centuries, the quarter
That's
centuries.
true, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, again, but Desjardins, absolutely. He could be on the last century, quarter century, and this quarter century team, and he should be if he's not already. I believe he is. But Provorov, man, I don't get it. I don't take anything away from him because somebody put the list together, but, man, I could have thought of other guys. And as for the wingers, you know,
Well, stick on defenseman real quick. Provorov, to me, is recency bias, and it's also like what the perceived value of the player was. Like, remember, during Hextall's years, he tried to sell this fan base on Provorov being the #1 defenseman and the guy who was good. Now, in fairness, he was their best defenseman for a few years that he was here, but in the grand scheme of the 25 years, no.
No, I mean, I like another guy I would have put ahead of him was Matt Carl.
Matt Carl played
Carl's
well
good.
here.
He's
Yeah,
good.
he
played
played well here.
Played with Pronger.
Who else are we missing? We're missing like
Andrew McDonald,
No.
Come on.
Tony D'Angelo.
I mean, you don't really have anybody back in like that 04 team. You guys ran out of defensemen because everybody got hurt.
Yeah. Interesting, though. I mean, yeah. And then Voracek, I know he had 1 year where he was really high up in the standings, but to me, I don't know how Simmons isn't on that team.
Simmons and Carter should be ahead of Voracek, no question in my mind.
Yeah.
And I would think that either Simmons or Carter goes on to the first team ahead of Richards. I have no problem with Richards being on the 2. Like, I would have put Richards second team.
If Voracek doesn't have you blocked on Twitter, he will after this.
The second goalie was another concern. And I love Bush. Don't get me wrong.
Nothing. I don't care. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's
Steve Mason.
Steve Mason.
I mean, he was a starter here for 5 years.
5
It was
years.
unbelievable at home games, like really.
Look at his numbers compared to every other Flyers goalie in history. He's like third behind Bernie and Hextall.
I know.
Like, it's crazy to me that he didn't get it.
The Flyers did have another young goalie for a while that they thought was going to be the future. Oh, he doesn't qualify.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's understandable.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's understandable why.
Let me ask an honest question here. All right, I'm talking about Carter Hart. If what were happening right now with him were not happening, even if he had walked away from the sport, like
he'd be there.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Carter Hart. Like if the legal things weren't happening, say he had just walked away from hockey,
he'd have been on the list.
His numbers were that good?
Well, I mean, it would be
Better than Mason and Bush?
better than Bush.
Bush got at least to a conference final here.
I mean,
that's fair.
Oh, he got to a final, too, actually, I forgot 10 years later when we played with
Yeah.
You think Biron was close to that, at least? He had
Marty
three,
Biron?
I looked at the numbers. The 3 years that he was here, he never had a season with a save percentage lower than 900. Which the same cannot be said for the other guys.
Yeah, he was okay.
Interesting. That's a good stat out of you.
Well, because I was looking it up because I thought we were all going to do like a thing. So I was struggling to come up with who I was going to have at my number 2. I actually almost put Biron. I put Jake Monick instead.
Well, who was your number 1?
Mason.
Oh, okay.
Well, listen, this is why what we are going to do on Snow the Goalie this week on a regular episode is we're going to present our own selections, our first and second quarter century team. I think that's fair. So we'll have a little bit of time. We'll put it together, and then if you want to submit yours to the show, you can email it snowthegoalie@gmail.com. You can DM it to us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Because I don't know if the show will be live or not, but you can certainly submit your teams. And I'll be interested to see how much of an overlap there is. Like everybody views the sport differently. It will be interesting. I mean, especially amongst us, who we put on those teams, but especially for the viewers of the show as well. But Biron was that's a good call out.
Conference final as well for him, right?
Yeah. Good call out. Look at you.
2008?
Look at you.
Yes, he was the goalie in 08. Yes.
Look at you.
I was still shutting Yager down all those first 4 years of the 2000s, so
And actually,
I know it.
Actually, that 2008 team, which was a little bit of a surprise team, that was the comeback the first year after the worst season in franchise history. Tiemann and Coburn both got hurt in the beginning of that first game of that Penguins series.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember. Now, I don't know if they beat Pittsburgh in that series, but I don't think it's a 5-game series.
No, they didn't, because Pittsburgh went to the final that year.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think it would have been as easy of a series for Pittsburgh if both Tiemann and Coburn were available.
Can I ask a question? Because, mind you, this is not quite before my time of being a full-on, sports. My glaring omission here was Keith Primo. Am I crazy? Can you guys explain?
There's not one player, I'm going to just flat out say it, there's not one single player on any of these lists, anywhere on the Flyers list, that had the playoff that Keith Primo had in 2004. There's not one player anywhere on these two lists that even compared to the playoff that he had. He almost won a cup by himself.
Yeah, he did. Briere's 2010 was close.
Who?
Briere did have a great 2010 run.
Playoffs. I think he had 36 points or something like that. I mean, he had an
pretty darn good. But it wasn't dominant like Primo.
No,
like
it
was not that.
Yes.
And no, it wasn't that. Primo did what he wanted pretty much that playoff. He was dominant defensively, offensively. He was unbelievable.
That was like, again, I think that one of the things that we as humans have is the players that you watch, like in your early teens, right? Like anywhere in that 10 to 14 range, you kind of overrate in your own mind. And so I want to make sure that I'm not missing something here. But Primo to me was the one that I was really surprised didn't make either of these teams. I would have put Primo in over like a Voracek at the very least. Spoiler alert, he's going to be on one of my teams when I present it later on
this week. He's honorable mention for me.
Okay.
There's a lot of honorable mentions. A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so
even Hartnell, you could honorable mention Hartnell too. I mean, he had 37 goals one year, right?
Yeah.
He was a spunky player. He played pretty hard.
I mean, you can honorable.
Well, if you want to go one-hit wonder years, does Yager make the?
That's only 1 year.
I'm just saying, like, let's say one-hit wonder or like short-term impact.
If you go short-term impact, Forsberg, Roenick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Forsberg is another guy.
Forsberg,
right? In terms of dominant regular season.
It was 1.5. That was like 1.5 seasons, right? With.
Yeah. I can't find a spot for him, though. Honorable mention, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Forsberg had a year where he had 75 points and only played in 60 games.
Yeah.
I was blowing through these guys' Wikipedias during the break.
I own very few.
JR was great. He's another one you easily could have made a case for, too. He could have
scored one of the greatest goals in franchise history.
I think this is going to be a really good topic on Snow the Goalie this week. So, get your picks in, email them or DM them.
Have we had our stat yet?
No, we're about to get. We had our stat, but now it's time for trivia time.
Trivia
with intern Andrew. Guys, get the instruments ready. We're all feeling better today. Ready? A 1, a 2, a 2.
So, how about? Do you guys actually remember the genesis of intern Andrew trivia?
The genesis of...
Was it against Florida?
No. So the Jets were here, and Russ was doing something on his computer, and Ant was like, well, Russ, you're not paying attention. Let's throw it to intern Andrew for a second. I was caught a little bit off guard, but I was talking about how Kyle Connor was at Michigan when I was at Penn State, and I gave an impromptu trivia question to you about who was on his line. Bundy, do you remember the trivia question that you threw back at me that night?
I don't, Andrew, no.
You asked me who the highest scoring brother tandem was in the NHL.
That's right, yeah.
And you got very mad at me at how quickly I got it.
Yeah.
And it's Wayne and Brent Gretzky. So I was holding
Wayne
on
and Keith. Wayne and Keith.
Was Keith? Oh, I thought it was Brent. Okay. Regardless. I was holding on to this question for a little bit, waiting for Florida to come because obviously their star player, Matthew Tkachuk, has a brother in the league, Brady, in Ottawa. So in that spirit, do you know the second highest scoring brother tandem in league history? Now, before you answer, you can't just say the Sutters because they had 6. So I'm looking for 2 brothers. If you want to guess 2 Sutters, you can specifically. Or if you want to guess 2 Stasnys, you can. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's got to be 2 guys.
Were the Sedins?
It's the Sedins.
Yeah. Hey, that was. Yeah.
All right.
Now, in fairness, he said we had to name them.
I was going to say Henry and Maurice Richard.
It's not them.
No,
Sedin's passed.
It's the Sedin's, yeah. The first ballot Hall of Famers, all those cups they won.
They were close once.
Although I will say,
We had to wait. I had to watch those guys go in before Jeremy Roenick
I will say,
and Alexander Mogilny.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I will say though that the way that their final game ended
was pretty cool.
was like pretty darn cool.
It was cool.
An overtime game-winning goal, the one brother setting up the other brother,
That's good.
and the time that the goal was scored was their two numbers together. Like that's pretty damn cool, right?
That's great. That got him in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just saying.
That last play did it. Put him over the top to get him in first. Yeah, let's put you in before Roenick and McGillney and whoever else is supposed to be in.
I would ask you if they were tough to play against.
If they weren't twins, they wouldn't have gone in the first ballot. If there was just one Sedin, they would have had to wait.
I always wondered how it worked out that Vancouver ended up being put in a position to draft both of them back to back. Like I almost feel like it was allowed to happen.
Are you accusing a rigging of the draft?
No, not a rigging per se, but maybe that, you know, whoever had the pick that was between them, then they were able to flip-flop it, and it was like, well, we're just going to take the brother.
Okay, so
Each and every team should deserve to
Yeah,
have
but
a
the
chance
brother,
at a Sedin.
the brother one, they were both good. One was a scorer, one was a setup guy.
Yeah. So they were picked second and third in 1999. Vancouver already had the third pick. The second pick they acquired from Atlanta as a result of a trade from June 26, 1999 that sent a first-round pick, number 2 overall, and a conditional third-round pick in the 2000 entry draft to Vancouver in exchange for this pick.
So basically, think about that.
So they traded with Atlanta to get pick number 2, and they already had number 3. And if I'm remembering this right, they didn't pick one before the other. They just picked both of them at the same time, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and not only that, so
Yeah, but Henrik went second, I think.
Officially, it has Daniel 2, Henrik 3.
Oh, okay.
That affects your bonus.
just saying, it's like. So think about what Atlanta.
It was a rigged draft, says Anthony Sample.
Atlanta traded the same.
Media bias here again.
Atlanta
on full
traded.
display.
Atlanta traded the same pick for the same pick the next year, and just a third round, and it was the second pick in the draft. Like, think about that for a second.
Andrew Fawcett with a super chat, and as we said during pregame, if you send a super chat, we're going to pull up your comment,
Andrew
read it.
Fawcett, I wish
answer.
I wish I knew what it said. Maybe you could DM me, Andrew.
Andrew's gonna dig into Brian Burke, how he ended up getting both guys. All right.
Okay. We can talk about it post game.
Yeah.
All right. Third period, guys.
See you post
Bundy,
game.
what does the team have to do in the first 5 minutes?
Have a good start. Don't turn pucks over. Get pucks in deep. Establish a forecheck and put pressure on the Florida defense.
That was efficient, and there he goes. We'll be back post game. Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator. West of the 51st state, Greenland, south of the 52nd state, Canada. Just like we all wrote it up, the Flyers take down the reigning, defending, undisputed Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And they do so in a game in which, Bundy, they started off horrifically, falling behind 2-0. And each period they got better. They cut the deficit to just 1 goal. And then you said they need a strong start to the third period. They pot 3 goals en route to a 4-3 win. Bundy, is this the win of the season?
I would say so. Down 2-0 to the Stanley Cup champions. You had a flat building in the first. The team was flat. The energy was probably a little bit of a hangover from the Anaheim Cutter-Gauthier game. But I'll tell you what. I mean, what a process of a game this was. Bad first period. Lots of life in the second period. They still were trailing again. And then, again, they do it again. Trailing down after in the third period. They come back to win a game. Is that 7 now?
I think it's 7.
Say that again. I
think he said 6
6 wins and 1 overtime loss.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable. That's some teams' 2 years of work, and they found they just don't stop coming at you. I wish they'd start better some games, but anyway, that's the way it went, and it was a process game. They got better and better as the game went on. Florida got worse and worse. I mean, did they even have 20 shots tonight?
They did. Yeah.
Well, Florida
they had 23.
All right, yeah, a little bit of flurry late in the game. That's what gave them that.
Listen, there's no getting around it. The Flyers in this game got stronger as the game went on. I don't know, in the past, Bundy, like earlier in the season when the Flyers would have one of these comeback wins where they're trailing after the second, you'd say, all right, maybe it's just a case where the opposition kind of lets off the gas a little bit, lets the Flyers back in. I don't think that was the case tonight. I do think that a lot of it was the Flyers' effort. It really ramped up. The energy ramped up. You don't win this game just by virtue of the opposition taking their foot off the gas.
I agree. This was the Flyers manufactured this win today. They didn't stop. They didn't quit. Noah Cates, I mean, tell you what a player he's really becoming when you look at the way that he has performed defensively, gets the responsibility of checking Barkov tonight, and he adds 2 goals, right? Noah Cates, 2 goals.
Noah Cates had 2 goals.
2 goals tonight, and they were late goals too. So I mean, those young guys again, the guys that we've been talking about, they've done a really good job, including Morgan Frost getting a goal tonight too.
Finish your story before you keep jumping in here. We need a little something. Go do your thing. By the way, I think I don't think that answer. I think that was their 7th win when trailing after 2 periods.
Yes, I believe it is.
I'm 5-1.
I'm telling you, this I don't think is updated, and that was 6 going into tonight. I'm almost positive.
I thought it was 6 as well.
I think Bundy's right. I think it's their 7th game that they've won when trailing after 2 periods. Did you have something you wanted to say there, kid?
No, I was turning Ant's mic up.
Oh, okay. Anyway, he's gonna dive into it, but I'm pretty sure that's their 7th. Either way, if it's their 6th,
they're saying 8th on the broadcast apparently.
I don't think it was. No, it was. That is not true. They're wrong on the telecast.
Okay.
If it is their 6th win, they're tied with Vegas atop the NHL in wins when trailing after 2 periods. We don't know how up to date that is, but okay, so we'll say it's either their 6th or their 7th. Well, you're using Hockey Reference, which doesn't always update to the 2nd. So this is you're going off of going into tonight on the 6th. Okay. So if yours, and then mine is all the way up to the minute then. Okay. So 6 would now have them tied with Vegas atop the entire NHL in terms of wins coming after trailing after the 2nd period. You're up there with Vegas. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I will say one thing. We've talked about it before, but they don't stop coming at you. When they get down goals, it seems like they get better for some reason. The only game with Dallas, but they still had a little push against Dallas too.
Yeah.
And Dallas was able to make the staves on some of those chances. But I got to give them a ton of credit, man. It's hard when you're down in this league against a team like Florida to come back. And I will say it, the Flyers took it to Florida in this hockey game. After the first period, they really did what they wanted in this game. It was fun to see. They won all their board battles and their zones. They won the offensive loose puck battles. And they clogged up the middle of the ice all the way through the hash marks, up and down the ice. I mean, it was a really excellent 40 minutes of hockey for the Flyers, the 2nd and 3rd period.
I want to keep building on the trend that we were just talking about. Here are some of the other teams that are at or near the top of come from behind wins. We'll say when trailing after 2. It's the Flyers. It's Vegas with 6 apiece. Edmonton, Washington, Carolina, Colorado, and Toronto and Detroit all have 4 wins when trailing after the second period. Of those teams, the Flyers have played the most games where they have trailed after 2 periods. So it's a pretty astounding stat, right? Like to trail that many games and to pull out that many wins. It's impressive. I don't know, Bundy, is it a culture thing? This team talks a lot about the culture. Is that kind of like the never say die
You can tell
culture?
Yeah, it is to a degree, but you can still tell they're still building, right? Like, I mean, you look at their record. You know, I mean, they're still significantly under 500, even with the overtime losses. So I always believe you have to be over 500 in the whole schedule to make the playoffs, and so they have a lot of catching up to do. But this was another step in the right direction before they head off on the road for some games.
I was going to throw it to Ant. Ant's still working on that. Okay. Intern Andrew, what are the people saying out there in YouTube, Facebook, and X-Land?
I guess there's a distinction. They're doubling and tripling down on it. They're saying it's the 8th third period comeback win. Maybe because they...
I think when they're saying 8th third period comeback, they might be talking about forcing overtime.
Well, what about games when they were down? So let's say they were tied in the second, and then they were down in the third.
Maybe it's that. That could be. Maybe that's what they're referring to.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's something else, because you could have been tied and then you're down 3-2.
Yeah.
And then you tie it up 3-3 and then you win the game 4-3.
It could be that. Let me see if I can pull that.
What was the score after 2 tonight? I can't remember.
It was 2-1.
It was 2-1.
It was 2-1. They were trailing.
Okay.
Let me see. When tied after the second period. I'm going to look.
Saying total comebacks.
I'm going to look
in the
at. Here we go. So when tied after 2 periods, where are your team, your town, Philadelphia Flyers? They've picked up 3 wins when tied. So that also wouldn't make sense, because that would then mean that you have 9 wins between either being tied after 2 or trailing after 2. So NBC Sports Philly is wrong.
Okay.
Because I very much trust my employer,
you hate to see
who
it.
happens to be like the biggest and best sports data company.
What about a game that you've had a lead going into the third, right? I know you can see a stat for that, and then you lose the lead. And then they take the lead, and then you end up getting the lead back again. So it's kind of weird, like in terms of saying you're down in the third period.
It's all.
Now, in fairness, you could look at that stat a whole bunch of different ways. And we have talked about the fact that the goaltending has been very inconsistent this season. They've certainly had good stretches. There was a good stretch when Ersson got hurt and Kolosov and Fedotov played well. There have been stretches where Ersson has had a hard time kind of getting back into rhythm. There have been times where Kolosov and Fedotov, when getting in after not playing for a while, have had up and down moments. You have some, bad first periods, some crooked numbers they could put up. But it's still a resilient thing. Now, I did mention that the Flyers, of the teams that have 4 or more wins, was it 8 of them, when trailing after the second period, they have played the most games in that situation. So you would think it stands to reason they would win at least a decent number of games if they also lead that group in most games where you trailed after 2. All right, Ogie did what I mentioned pregame. If you throw a super chat in on the Press Row Show, we'll definitely pull up your question, comment, or concern. We try to get to as many as we can, but the super chats are guaranteed to get on. Ogie asks, what happened to Ant's Uncle Fester look? He's been growing the hair back.
Looks nice. Hair's coming in nicely. And
not only that, you guys haven't really noticed, but
are you using Hims?
I'm starting to grow sideburns.
Very nice.
Pull the headphone away a little.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
I have to for the play that I'm in.
I think they're a nice addition to your head.
Because it's 1975.
Oh, I thought you were playing the lead of Maverick in the remake of Top Gun: The Play.
That maybe Ambrose Burnside. Did you see Fawcett's super chat, by the way? He said he tried to DM you.
Yeah, he DM'd me the story about the Sedines.
Oh, okay.
And then you were doing a bit of a deep dive, because during the second intermission we talked about, it was your trivia.
Yes.
About the brother tandem with the second most points in league history. It was the Sedines.
I didn't realize how much went into it. My head was exploding.
Do you want to like let people in on it, because it was a lot? I mean, there were a lot of deals that had to go into getting the second, and they already had the third.
So there was a lot that I learned that was interesting. So starting with this, when they were coming up, they expressed it basically right away. We want to play with each other on the same team.
The Sedines.
So their agent basically laid out two options for them. Option one was one of the twins was going to forego the 99 draft and then just wait until 2000, and whoever drafted the first twin, hopefully they would draft the second one the following year.
Yeah,
Option number two, this might hit a little bit close to home. Option two was they were both going to just refuse to sign with the team that drafted them. They were going to sit out for 2 years and become unrestricted free agents.
And just sign together.
And then just sign together.
Gross.
So they ended up...
First ballot Hall of Famers.
Yes. So they ended up entering the draft together in 99, and the Canucks already had the third pick and were interested in getting both of them. Mm-hmm. So they traded their 2000 first-round pick to the Blackhawks for pick number 4.
Okay.
However, at this point, the Lightning had pick number 1, and their GM had said, we're going to draft Daniel. And the Canucks GM and their agent both went to the Lightning and said, Daniel is not going to sign with you unless he has Henrik with him. So the Lightning were like, okay, peace out. So they traded the first pick to the Canucks, and then the Canucks gave them their 4th overall pick. So now they have picks 1 and 3, and then the Thrashers were like, hold my beer. We want to get in on this as well. And I guess the Thrashers agreed they wanted the first pick. So they swapped the pick. Atlanta had 2 and Vancouver had 1. They swapped. So now Vancouver has 2 and 3. Atlanta has number 1. And I guess they agreed they were not going to pick a Sedin with number 1. So rather than getting one of these 2 future Hall of Famers, they got NHL legend Patrick Stefan with the number 1 overall pick. And that's how the Canucks ended up with 2 and 3. They got Daniel and Henrik.
And that's why the Thrashers aren't in Atlanta anymore.
That is correct.
Good stuff, Andrew.
Stefan's got to be like the worst number 1 overall of all time.
One of
right?
them.
188 career NHL points.
That's brutal. That's almost as bad as the Sixers trading for the number 1 overall pick and drafting Fultz and stuff.
Dag. Oh, yeah, Dag was another. He ended up coming on a little later in his later years. He ended up having a little bit of a career, but Brian Lawton is the one that always stands out. Yeah, that's a perennial.
We'll put this out to the multi-sport fans. Who was a worse number 1 overall pick, Stefan or Anthony Bennett in the NBA?
Oh, jeez.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select Anthony Bennett.
Wasn't he Canadian?
He was the Canadian kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awful.
Was Kwame Brown a number 1 overall?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. That was when Michael Jordan was the front office exec, right? For the was that for
my favorite is a guy in New Orleans right now, though. That guy,
Zion?
That guy's just my absolute favorite. Big McDonald's eating.
Yeah, he's
just a beauty. He's got to have it.
You see his he had a comment on Joy Taylor's Instagram the other day.
I think that turned out to be fake.
Was it fake?
Yeah.
I thought it was real. Was it fake?
I'm pretty sure it was fake.
All right, well, we report, you decide.
Real.
We try to be fair and balanced here, so we'll make sure that we find out. We will look into the veracity of that report.
Oh, Yakupov's another one. Good call right there by Rob Greeley.
Yeah, Yakupov.
Oh, it was wasn't that was going around the other day from Chicklets, right? It was was it Burke was on Chicklets and he talked about Yakupov having like one of the worst interviews of all time, and one of the scouts was going to fight him. It was that bad.
Really?
Yeah, it was going around the other day. I saw it. I don't
really
listen to Chicklets. It's like a Boston thing.
Imagine having a name Nail.
It's too bad. Yeah, he has a great name.
Yeah,
and it just didn't really pan out.
Anyway,
took Edmonton a while to figure out what to do with that number 1 overall pick.
Are you here? Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm done writing.
You're done?
Have you ever wondered what the Associated Press looks like, everybody? You're looking at it right in the middle of us right
That's
now.
right.
Yeah,
that's the Associated Press.
Yes, just me.
That was it tonight for the Flyers game anyway. So that's how the Associated Press works. Anthony just, Lord knows how many thousands of dollars he got for writing that story.
It's
Sources have told me hundreds of thousands.
sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
Associated Press.
We've had a lot of people ask about a studio show. We're going to have a studio shoot.
Yeah, we're actually going into the studio. Once we're done here, we're going in to go do a Snow the Goalie tonight. No, we're not. No, we're not.
Russ.
No. I mean, I would, but
we spend so much time down here that we try to do a lot of everything with the entire nightly show. So, but we will have another a regular show. We will.
It'll either be in the studio or it'll be from home. But we are going to do it. I told Bundy. I told Ant pregame that there was somebody who. They called us out in a nice way where they were like, guys, you did more off-season shows than you've done shows in the regular season. Now, in fairness, in our minds, we're down here a lot, and so these shows count for us. But there are people who, for whatever reason, are like, well, the press row show is a totally different thing. It doesn't count. We're like, all right.
They just want to hear Bundy curse.
I
think that is it.
That's what it is.
Tony Louie left us.
Tony Louie, yeah. Bundy, 99-2000, everyone thought Bork was coming here. If that happened, do you think it would have been enough to get past New Jersey and win the Cup? I think it would have been absolutely would have made our team better. You know, it's funny. I got a funny story about that. We were playing the Boston Bruins. You can look at the schedule right before Bork got traded, at the time. And we were getting our tape at our sticks, a few of us outside the Boston locker room, our locker room in Boston. And Raymond Bourque was walking in to go to his locker room in Boston. This is when all the trade stuff was super heated up. And I remember he was walking towards us, saw us doing our sticks, and he kind of smiled at us like, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. And I remember I looked at Ray and I said, see you in a few hours, buddy. Anyway, it never happened. It just fell apart and it never happened. But, yeah, I do think that would have been a really good trade to have a guy like that brought that prowess and that skill and that the leadership in it would have been a really significant move for sure.
That would have been great.
March 4th at Boston, you won 3-0.
Yeah, and then he got traded after that.
I don't know. I'm just looking at your guys' schedule.
That would have probably been it. Yeah, it was an afternoon game, and I remember. Yeah, I'll never forget it. Like, hey, we'll see you in a few hours. Catch the plane back with us. And I remember him just kind of laughing, like, yeah, hopefully. And I think he thought he was coming here too. I really do believe that. So,
what was the date on that there, intern?
March 4th, 2000.
Let me ask you this, Bundy, on that.
Yeah.
If that trade, again, this is a lot of ifs, and you may not know the answer, but if that trade happens, do they keep you and Rico together still?
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Yeah, keep you together?
100%, yeah.
And Bourque would have been on the second pair?
We would have been on, 1A or 1A, I think. Yeah, I don't think they would have switched me into Jardin because we were playing great. Like, we were a great pair. They were looking to add to the team. So
would Bourque have
who knows?
The
trade
team?
I know what would have happened.
Trade went through on March 6th, so 2 days later.
There you go. Yeah. That's how tight it was.
His memory is so freaking scary.
Yeah,
yours.
Yeah.
You have the sharpest.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean, Ant? Like, it's like there are savant levels. Like, I'm not saying Bundy's Rain Man, but like he can just like
when he
like that.
You know when we knew that? When he pulled that where that school was located. Those kids were down here to play hockey last year.
Yeah.
From New England somewhere.
Was it a school up there? Was it Avon Old Farms?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it was something like that. And you just started saying where it was or whatever.
Yeah,
and we were like, Bundy.
I have a brain of useless knowledge. Everybody, I've
stacked
it with. I have an amazing memory. I will say that it's probably my greatest attribute. I remember very small details, even from going back to my playing days. Like you could say, where were you at that game that night? And I could almost tell you where I was. Like if you named any game, I could almost pinpoint to a certain location about where I was.
Don't put him on the spot like that. He's saying like that.
I'm saying, like if you said you played Nashville in 1997, I might have a story about Nashville in 1997.
All right, pull a random game now. Now we do have to test it.
Random
how are we gonna
game?
Know? Well, he just said.
Well, I'm just saying, like I'm just.
Played 10 years.
I could put it in the league, yeah, but I do remember a lot like that. There's certain games you remember more than others. And little.
So what were you going to say? You said I'll tell you what would have happened for Bourque.
Desjardins and Bourque would have been on the power play together. That would have been absolute. Like he would have enhanced the power play. I think that's what they were trying to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, at that point, remember Raymond Bourque was older, right? Like he was a long time journeyman. He's still an excellent player. He went to Colorado and he added to their lineup, but he was not the same Raymond Bourque that was in 1986 either.
True.
So
how about,
this is true, and that was back in the day when you mostly had two defensemen on the power play.
Yes.
Mostly. Yes. Some teams threw the fourth forward.
But he would have absolutely made the power play much, much better. Yeah.
April 16th, 1998. Since we're playing the Panthers tonight, you were at Florida for that game.
Yeah. I scored a goal, and it was a 6-1 victory, if I'm not mistaken.
Close.
5-1 or 6-2 or
7-3.
7-3. Okay. Yeah.
So they had 3.
Yeah.
So you scored the fourth goal.
Yeah. I actually could
game
tell
winner,
you.
Therien.
I could tell you who assisted on it too. I think it was Peter White.
No.
It was not Peter White?
No. And I'm on NHL.com, and it doesn't.
Don't break his spirit. He got most of it right.
It's only giving me last names, and I don't know what their first names are. I haven't heard of either of these guys.
What's the last name?
Svoboda.
Oh, Peter Svoboda.
And Grattan.
Chris Grattan.
Okay. You don't know Chris Grattan?
Oh. No idea.
All right, we'll leave that.
What do you know about restricted free agency? What do you know about offer sheets?
I was
kid?
2.
Okay. We'll leave that one alone.
You want to talk
when
about
you only have
sheets?
29 career goals, you remember most of them. But they're all big.
The funny thing is, I didn't even do that on purpose. I just picked a random game.
Yeah.
Saw it was against Florida, and I was like, well, that score is a little bit obscure.
You would stump me on some guys, but I'm not like Russ is right. I have a stupid memory for stuff, and it's a curse and a blessing.
He's like an elephant, right? Elephants never forget, right? And does that make Bundy an elephant?
Is Bundy an elephant?
I've been looked like
I
one
don't know.
before.
Bundo.
Are you afraid of mice?
Bumbo.
No,
Bundo.
they are afraid of mice, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
They are.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of mice?
I'm not.
All right.
I kind of am.
You know where my mind just went
They creep me out.
No.
about mice?
What about them? Of mice and men, he's Lenny?
No,
He's not Lenny.
no.
What?
You're reading our
What about-
last stat
what
here
about-
from
what
Seth
about- what about
Pumilia.
mice?
Per NHL stats, tonight marks the Flyers' league-leading 8th third period
talked about
comeback
that,
winner.
though,
See,
but-
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
giving
So-
tribute to another stat.
No, but that means that there were comebacks in the third period where they were either tied or ahead and fell behind and still came back to win. The record after 2 periods, I looked it up, and
it's
it was
5. There was 5. Right?
5. Yeah.
Does it mean
Before tonight.
third period comeback win that they won in regulation?
No.
So it does include overtime also.
Does include
this
overtime.
whole thing is
Yeah.
So
whatever.
It's 6 when they were trailing. And I found that there were 3 that they won after being tied. But that means one of those, they took the lead in the third and they held on. And the 2 that you're talking about happened when they fell behind.
Or they could have been ahead, fell behind, and
No, but I'm saying there were 3 games where the Flyers were tied after 2 periods and then went on to win. So if we do the math here of 8, it means that one of those, they scored the go-ahead goal in the third and went on to win it. And in 2 of them, they probably conceded the leading goal and then came back to win.
But you're refusing to listen to what I just said.
What?
Or when they were tied, they could have taken the lead
Oh, and then
blown the lead and then
come
come
okay.
back.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Correct.
I don't think we can leave until we get this figured out.
We'll get.
We can.
We will.
And we
here all night.
Well, it's about time to shut her down, Russ.
That's it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We will be back later this week with a regular Snow the Goalie because I don't know if you folks know this or not, but the Flyers aren't back home for a week, so there won't be a press row show for a week, but we will do a Snow the Goalie this week. It'll either be in that there studio over there or from the comfort of our homes, but we will have an episode. You can tell all your friends. You can tell all your family. We will be back with a regular episode. We will get into the hilarity of whatever the hell the quarter-century teams were. We talked about it during one of the intermissions. We gave you a little taste, little taste of the conversation. If you want to submit your take on who should have been the first and second team for the Flyers quarter-century teams, you can email us, snowthegoalie@gmail.com. You can DM the show on Twitter/X, on Instagram, Facebook. Send us your teams because we certainly do not agree with the first and second team. We'll have all of that ready for you later this week. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Snow the Goalie on YouTube. You can follow us on X and on Facebook. You can follow us on TikTok, assuming that TikTok doesn't get shut down in a few days. And you can also find the show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music. We put the post-game show from the Press Row Show in the podcast feed as well. And sometimes we clip up whatever happened in pregame with a guest like John LeClaire, like Adam Kimmelman doing the breakdown about World Juniors. We might even take the Nick Schultz thing from today and throw that in the podcast feed as well. So make sure you go subscribe. And until later this week, that's Ant, Bundy, intern Andrew. I'm Russ. We'll talk to all of you later this week on Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast. Have a great night. Flyers win. A big win. The win of the year. Talk to all of you very, very soon.